New cyclones possible in the Indian Ocean this week on today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for March the 4th. We are code blue for two systems now that we've been monitoring for quite a while. Of course, the main one that we're currently tracking is off the coast of Madagascar, but still hasn't become a tropical cyclone yet, although that's not too surprising at this stage. We'll take a look at that in a moment. First of all, the Atlantic. It's 88 days until hurricane season, and it's nice to see it. There's nothing on the horizon, as it should be. Although there is an interesting little feature building up off the coast of the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and that is going to be tracking inland northwards over the next day or two. It's 71 days until hurricane season in the Eastern Pacific, and Hawaii is currently embroiled in a big frontal system that's moving through and causing lots of rainfall, and indeed there are some flash flood warnings active there right now as well. In the Western Pacific, it's extremely quiet, too quiet one might say. Very little cloud cover across the whole basin actually, with quite a lot of cloud only very far to the north there, near South Korea and southern Japan. Into the Indian Ocean, not much going on there in the North Indian Ocean. The South Indian Ocean though is where it's going to be at. 50% chance now that we've given for a system off Indonesia, and then a 30% chance creeping in later on as well, probably this weekend into early next week, that could be heading towards Australia. We're now giving 60% chance for the system near Madagascar, still looking decent, but model support isn't full, although the GFS and the European model both have it developing quite easily. Nothing going on in the South Pacific. It's very quiet here right now, and so no attention is going to be given for this area today. So let's home in on this area of interest then once again, that's close to Madagascar, but it's actually closest to Mayotte right now, a small island nation just to the north of the system, 147 kilometers, 239 kilometers from Ankasakasa in Madagascar, 245 from Mahajanga, 606 from the capital Antananarivo, and 673 from Morondava. It is slowly moving sort of west-southwest at the moment, but it will be turning much more pronounced towards the south in the coming hours. So here it is on satellite imagery, and it has to be said it's not looking very good. It's sort of to be expected at this stage. We didn't expect formation to really ramp up until it gets past that area of the Mozambique channel, where the gap between Madagascar and Mozambique is the smallest. When it goes over the little bit more water there towards the southwest, the models think at least that's when it's going to start to get going. So its movement in the last 12 hours there has been southwestwards, and you can see there not very much convection, but you can certainly see where the rotation is at. If we had radar, you'd probably see that pronounced on there too. This is water vapor imagery, so it's probably not producing huge amounts of rain right now, although there are a few convective blow-ups off the northwestern tip of Madagascar, and that will be producing some significant rainfall. Looking at some more imagery here, some very high cloud tops indeed in those small areas that are blowing up in those last few frames, and I expect that at some point they'll be more widespread and we'll be seeing a lot more rainfall. But as of right now, a very disorganized system, but that was to be expected, and we do think it will really take shape in the next couple of days. Here's the southeastern Indian Ocean system, the other one that we've been monitoring. This is the 50% chance that's located well out to sea off Indonesia, probably not too far from the Cocos Islands, although I can't see it marked on there. It is a very small island. It is blowing up quite a bit of convection there. This is old imagery from yesterday, so we're not really going to look at this very much, but it was blowing up convection at that point as well. But on the other imagery we were just looking at, it is still doing that, but less so than what it was managing yesterday. And that's another quick look at that there. Well, let's also show you a couple of other things that are going on. There's the Atlantic system, and it's very fascinating to see that rotating, but I've checked very closely. It's not going to be of any characteristic of tropical nature. It won't be nameable if it did manage to do something stupid. And this is Hawaii, really underneath that massive flank of cloud cover there, which is producing very heavy rainfall, flash flooding concerns, and winter storm warnings on the mountains of the Big Island. Sea surface temperatures around the eastern Pacific are looking pretty good, up to 29 degrees Celsius in the far east, obviously taking its time to warm up this time of year. The Atlantic, a similar story. The Caribbean is still keeping up those temperatures. The Western Pacific also looking decent in the areas of the deep tropics, and around Guam there, 27 degrees Celsius, stretching towards the eastern Philippines, maybe pushing 28 in a few spots. The North Indian Ocean, especially off the western coast of southern India, those temperatures really up there around 30 degrees plus, and in the Bay of Bengal a few spots there approaching 30 as well, particularly in the Andaman Sea. The Mozambique Channel is very warm off the coast of western Madagascar, and where that system is right now it's over 30 degrees Celsius, and that will continue for a couple of days. Towards Mauritius and Reunion, around 28 degrees Celsius. Near Australia, very warm sea surface temperatures once again in those lower latitudes. Still a little bit of a cool area off the coast of Western Australia that's slightly below average, but in general those temperatures are looking good. In the South Pacific also looking very good here too, 30 degrees plus north of Fiji, stretching towards Vanuatu and towards the Solomon Islands, but nothing to take advantage of that just yet. Compared to normal, the orange zones show above average temperatures in the Mozambique Channel, around 2 degrees above average. In the area of Indonesia, similar actually, around 2 degrees above average there as well. The Coral Sea, very warm compared to average too, and in the Western Pacific it's only slightly above. The Eastern Pacific also looking decent for this time of year, and the Caribbean Sea as well, but the subtropical Atlantic a little bit more normal. Well, oceanic heat content is very high in parts of the South Pacific, and you can never discount storms forming in this area all the way up until early May. In the North Pacific then, a few areas there still looking okay, even one or two spots in the Eastern Pacific, but off Guam towards the Philippines there, a decent area of energy, which can certainly propel a storm up a category or two. So here's the GFS computer model then for the next 5 days, and it still doesn't develop the storm instantly. It takes 1, maybe 2 days before it starts to develop, and then it hugs the coast off southwesternmost Madagascar now on the latest run, actually stalls there for a good few days, and that would spell very bad news for that region, which would receive extremely heavy rainfall, high amounts of rainfall, and possibly getting up towards hurricane force winds initially and starting to abate later on. Well, looking at the southeastern Indian Ocean, it's gotten a little more complex. There's the one we've circled, that's the 50% system. GFS isn't so confident that this will actually develop now. It's a very disorganized system, and then pulling in this energy from the coast of Indonesia, that second system just about starting to form at the end of that 5-day period. But watch again, the first system moving towards the left-hand side, westward movement very slowly, really struggles to get itself organized, and I don't think it reaches tropical storm status in that 5-day period on that run. Well, this is the rainfall expectation over the next 7 days, and watch how this has changed compared to yesterday. If you saw our bulletin, extremely a significant increase over large parts of southwestern and western Madagascar for very high rainfall. We're now, I was talking about yesterday, if the storm moved closer towards land, we could be seeing 25 inches. Well, there it is, 20 inches now on the forecast for the southwestern tip of Madagascar. That's 500 millimeters, and where it stalls just offshore, potentially up to 35 inches of rainfall. But along all of the west coast of Madagascar there, getting up towards 10 inches, 250 millimeters, and inland getting up towards 8 inches, 200 millimeters. In the capital Antananarivo, possibly 6 inches, 150 millimeters, and that could be seen pretty much anywhere in Madagascar. Well, let's take a look at the medium range, day 5 to 10. This is the same area again, and this storm decides to play silly games and goes towards Mozambique there. And it actually makes a brief landfall there near Inhambane, and then towards the south, just off the coast of Maputo, and then curving very quickly off towards the southeast. That would be a very strange situation. Storms don't usually get that far south, especially at that intensity, and then swiveling off towards the southeast. Watch again these two systems on the left hand side, the one that the GFS isn't so sure on anymore, trying to develop, and the one on the right hand side getting an easier time of it, but it is quite far out, developing into a hurricane strength storm as it starts to curve away from Western Australia towards the end of that 10-day period. And I'm still not convinced that that system on the left hand side develops at all in that 10-day period on the GFS. It looks like it still has some troughing all the way through that run, and so may not become a tropical cyclone, but keep watching. This situation is likely to be fluid. Scan the barcode and that will take you to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look at all our products as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. And are still waiting for a Hone t-shirt, which Hawaiians might feel they're getting a little bit of a Hone event right now, but it isn't a tropical storm. Well, in the Scilly range, that storm eventually moves out very quickly south of Madagascar, and then those two other systems entering the picture there. The one on the left hand side does form in the end and becomes a hurricane strength storm actually, and then starts to move southwestwards, so it finally makes its mind up, but it is in the Scilly range, so really can't put much emphasis on that one at all. And then a very interesting situation in the Indian Ocean there, where there may be 4 storms active at the same time. And you're about to see the 4th one, which is forming just off the coast of Western Australia there. There it is, starting to form again, and moving towards the southwest, and becomes pretty powerful, category 3 or 4 there, moving towards the southwest. It looks like it completely misses Western Australia, maybe a brief period of tropical storm force winds, but once again this is very, very long range. We're talking mid-month here, and it doesn't look like well, I should say there's a huge room for change on that one, and all options in play. March 4th, 2019, can you believe it's 5 years ago? Cyclone Harley was peaking as a category 4 on this day, and a beautiful picture there from the Himawari 8 satellite back then, looking towards the limb of that evening shot of Harley as it was moving southwesterly. An impressive storm, category 4 peak, and if I recall correctly, it surprised people when that actually happened. And there it goes. Well, back to today, and in the Atlantic, the first name this year will be Alberto. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Aletta, and in the Central Pacific, it is still Hone. We are code blue, not only for the Madagascar system, but also for the Eastern system that we've been looking at on the models. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Winyar, and in the North Indian Ocean, it will be Ramal. We haven't had any storms so far in the Westpac or the North Indian Ocean, or indeed the Northern Hemisphere so far this year. And in the Southern Hemisphere, of course, where the action is, the next name in the Australian region is Megan. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, it's Filippo. And in the South Pacific, it's Pitta. That's all from our Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow.